Hi, my name's Neil and welcome to another video where I talk you through how I took one of my favourite photographs. First of all, I must apologise for the fact that I'm talking into my phone. I've come all the way out to a nice park to record this and totally forgotten to bring the right cables for a microphone, so apologies for that, and apologies I look a little bit like a newsreader, but I hope you'll get the gist. So today I'm going to be talking you through how I took one of my favourite photographs at one of my flash workshops at Eaves Hall just last week. I love these workshops. They're really great to give me a chance to show how I use off-camera flash at a wedding. Not just for creative portrait photographs like these, but also how I use flash for other parts of the day, such as the speeches and also first dance. It's a really useful workshop for those that are not confident with flash or would like to learn more about flash and how you can use it throughout the day, not just for creative portraits. But this is the photograph I'd like you to talk you through, and one of the interesting things about this is that this is a photograph which I didn't intend to take. I actually set up another shot, which you're going to see, which was a little bit more safer, if you like, and this, my favourite photograph, ended up being one that was not in my mind when I started taking the photograph. And often I find that this is the case, so I will always take a safe shot first, and then whilst I've got all the lighting correct and my exposure is correct, then I'll just try other things and try and experiment a little bit. And I often find that it's these experimental shots which are actually turn out to be my favourites, and that's exactly what happened here. In fact, the photograph which you're about to see, I actually took using a monkey, which I found at the venue, which was a bit bizarre. I never would have thought beforehand that I'd end up asking for the help of a monkey to take one of my favourite photographs, but there you go. But it's all come about through experimentation, and that's one of the best lessons which I think I can teach in the workshop, which is to take a safe shot first but then experiment. And it's often through experimentation that I get my favourite photographs. That's exactly what happened here. So never be afraid to fail. The more we push ourselves and the more we try new things, the bigger our chances of getting shots which we haven't taken before and which we really like. Many of my favourite photographs have come about through mistakes, through experimentation, and I've just refined them. So again, I always like to take the safe shot and then try something new and see what happens, and that's exactly what I did in the video you're about to see. And my favourite photograph wasn't the first shot which I had in my mind when I first approached this scene and visualised it, but it was something completely different, and I say it included a monkey, so who knew? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video and find it useful. If you'd like any more information about my workshop, the link is in the description below. Pop your email address in and then you'll be amongst the first to know whenever I release new dates. Anyway, so without any further ado, I'm going to pass you over to me at Eaves Hall. Over to me! For this shot, I wanted to demonstrate how by underexposing existing light sources, in this case the lamp on the desk, and then by using off-camera flash like the couple, we can create interesting images. Rather than put the bride and groom by the lamp, I thought it would be cool to shoot the bride and groom in the mirror. I set my speedlight to 1/16 power, which is my go-to flash power for indoor flash, and tilted the speedlight so that it was facing the couple in portrait orientation to mirror the shape of their pose. The first shot was a decent start, but there was far too much light spill coming from the flash. Not only was the light from the flash hitting the bride and groom, but also the desk and the lamp slightly too. I find that even if I zoom in the flash, there will still be far too much spill, so to solve this I added a MagMod grid to the flash. This instantly made a huge difference by reducing the spread of the light, meaning that the light from the flash was now only hitting the couple. The image was getting there now, but I felt that the couple would look better if the light on them from the flash was a bit warmer. So to solve this, I added a warm seashell gel to the flash. The change in white balance on the couple is only quite subtle, but I think it makes a huge difference to the overall image. At this point I was happy with my exposure, so because I was shooting with everything in manual and the lighting conditions wouldn't be changing as I was indoors, I just had to concentrate on getting the composition correct and the pose of the bride and groom. The great thing about shooting in manual with off-camera flash is that once you have an exposure which you're happy with, you can move around and the exposure on the bride and groom will always stay the same. Now that I've got the safe shot which I was originally going for, I can play around a little bit and experiment more. knowing that whether what I try works or not, I've already got the safe shot in the bag. So for this shot, I thought it would be interesting to see what would happen if I went right up to the mirror and used the frame to create some interesting foreground bokeh. This worked really well, but I knew that to make the bokeh really stand out, I needed to add some light to it. To do this, I simply used the torch on my phone. I find the light on my phone can be great for things like this, and because I always have my phone in my pocket, it's a light which is always there should I need it. When I first had the idea for this shot, it hadn't actually crossed my mind to use the frame of the mirror for foreground bokeh like this, but it's often the case that one of my experimental shots, which I didn't actually have in mind when I first started shooting the scene, ends up being one of my favourites, so it's always well worth playing around and trying something new once you have the safe shot you originally wanted. I then tried something different again. I had noticed that on the desk with the lamp, there were two gold monkey bookends, so I thought it would be interesting to see what would happen if I picked one up and put it right up against my camera lens. As it turned out, the bokeh that this created, especially because I was shooting at f2, looked really cool. Because of this, I carried on shooting with the monkey in front of the lens. When I do something like this, because the effect can be very unpredictable, I tend to take quite a lot of shots, making minute adjustments as I shoot to give myself as good a chance as I can of getting a shot which I really like. Shooting digitally is free, so the more shots you take, the more you increase your chances of taking a great one. I must admit that when I started shooting this scene, I didn't have a clue that it would be the monkey that would end up giving me my favourite photograph, so always try new things.
Brilliant, you two, thank you very much.
Okay, so let's open and edit one of my favourite images in Lightroom. This is actually one of the photographs I shot with the gold monkey in front of the lens. So now we're in Lightroom, the first thing I do is apply my preset and crop the image. Using the brush tool, I then reduce the clarity slightly on the bride and groom's face just to soften them, before reducing the highlights slightly on the dress. As the human eye will always look at the brightest part of an image first, I always like to try and make this the place where I want the eye to go. In this case, it being Louisa, our bride's face. I then concentrate on editing all the foreground bokeh created by the monkey. The bokeh was quite underexposed in camera because I didn't have a light on the monkey at the time, but I knew that I'd be able to bring back lots of details from the shadow areas. To do this, I made a new brush and painted over the whole of the left hand side of the image. The brush increased the exposure, clarity and dehaze, and also increased the temperature of the white balance in this area too, and as you can see, it really started to transform the overall look of the photograph. I then made a second brush to increase the exposure even more in the areas where the bokeh was especially dark. Again, it always amazed me just how much detail I'm able to bring back from the shadow areas. After that, I just made some minor adjustments such as increasing the exposure on the frame of the mirror and reducing the highlights slightly on the areas where the bokeh was a little too bright. I then reduced the exposure of the wood behind Louisa where the flash has spilled onto it. I know that I'm going to get rid of this in Photoshop, but I'll leave that for now. I then spent a few more seconds just playing around with the bokeh and making minor adjustments to the exposure and white balance of certain areas, before adding a slight vignette and slightly increasing the exposure on James and Louise's face. After a few more tweaks, it was time to export the image and open it up in Photoshop. As you can see here, by spending just a couple of minutes in Lightroom, I was able to really transform the overall look of the photograph. Once I'd exported the image from Lightroom, there wasn't really much left to do, but I do love using Photoshop for cleaning up distracting areas of an image. So in this shot, I started by using the Content Aware tool and then the Healing brush to delete the lines which could be seen through this little bit of bokeh. Finally, using a black brush, I painted over the lines which could be seen behind Louisa and James, before removing the stem of James's flower. Again, these changes are very minor, but I think they make a big difference to the overall look of the photograph. So here we are, the final image. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. Please let me know what you thought in the comment section. I always love receiving comments and try to reply to each and every one which I receive. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to my channel where I'll be posting lots more videos like this. So thank you very much again for watching, and I'll see you next time.